The alarm tore through my sleep before my eyes even opened, and I was on my feet and running before I understood why. My name is Daniel Ashworth, third officer aboard the Callaway's Det, a cargo hauler built for mining runs, not for war. When I reached the bridge, the main screen was already painted red with warning icons, and Captain Ellen Marsh stood at the center of it all, calm in a way that made my stomach tighten more than the alarms did. A ship had dropped out of warp less than 200 kilometers from us. It was sleek, armored, built with lines that had never belonged to any human shipyard. Its weapons ports glowed with a dull orange light, already charging. Our pilot, a quiet young woman named Grace Pemberton, gripped the controls with both hands, her knuckles pale. Beside her, our engineer, a broad-shouldered man named Owen Whitfield, was already running diagnostics, his fingers flying across the console. The comm channel crackled open on its own, as if the strangers wanted us to hear them before we even had a chance to speak. "Human vessel," a voice said, cold and flat. "Deliver your cargo and your crew for inspection. Power down your engines. Any resistance will be met with total force." Nobody on the bridge moved. I looked at Captain Marsh, waiting for the fear I expected to see on her face, but there was none. She simply reached forward and opened the channel herself. "This is the Callaway's Det," she said, her voice steady. "We are a civilian transport. We are not a threat to you, and we do not accept your terms." The voice on the other end let out something close to a laugh, sharp and mocking. "You have no weapons capable of harming us," it said. "Your kind has always surrendered when faced with true power. Do not waste our patience." Captain Marsh looked at Owen, who gave a small nod, then she looked back at the screen. "Then I suppose you are about to learn something new about my kind," she said, and closed the channel. The silence that followed lasted only a few seconds before the enemy ship fired. I had never been in a real fight before. I had trained for emergencies, for engine failures and hull breaches, but nothing had prepared me for watching a bright streak of energy rush toward us across open space. I braced myself against the console, waiting for the impact that I was sure would tear the ship apart. The strike hit our hull with a deep shudder that rattled through the floor and into my bones. Lights flickered. Somewhere below us, metal groaned. For a moment, I thought this was the end, that we were already finished. But the ship held. Owen shouted something from his station, something about output levels rising, about the new plating doing exactly what it was designed to do. I did not fully understand the details then, only that months earlier, after a distant colony had been attacked without warning, every human vessel traveling through contested space had been fitted with a new kind of hull technology. It was not simply armor. It was built to absorb an attack, read its exact nature, and answer it back through emitters spread across the ship's frame. We had heard about it in briefings. We had never expected to actually need it. Grace turned in her seat, eyes wide. "It's rerouting the strike," she said. "It's building a return charge." Captain Marsh did not smile, did not celebrate. She simply said one word: fire. I watched through the viewport as a beam of light shot from our hull, the very same kind of energy the enemy had used against us, sent straight back at their ship, with far greater force behind it. It struck their forward section, and for a heartbeat, their entire vessel seemed to shiver, lights sparking along its hull like the visible core. Their commander shouted something through the comm, no longer calm, no longer certain, but Captain Marsh only turned to Owen. "Keep the mirror running," she said. "Full output." I asked her later, once things had calmed down, why she had not seemed afraid. She told me fear was useful only if you let it control you, and that she had trained her whole life to make sure it never would. The enemy ship fired again, faster this time, more shots in quick succession, as if their commander believed sheer numbers might overwhelm whatever had just happened to them. Each strike hit our hull, and each one came back doubled, tearing through their shields, disabling one section after another. I watched their weapons ports go dark one by one, watched sparks fly from what must have been their engine core, watched their ship begin to drift, no longer under full control. It was not a fight anymore. It had become something closer to a lesson, one they had not expected to receive, and one they clearly had no idea how to survive. Their commander's voice returned to the channel, this time without the confidence from before. "What is this technology?" he demanded. Explain yourselves. Captain Marsh answered him herself, her tone even, almost gentle. You assumed we were weak because we did not look dangerous, she said. That mistake has cost you everything you brought with you today. There was no reply after that. Their ship's remaining systems failed completely, drifting silent and powerless in the black, no longer a threat to anyone. We did not destroy them. Captain Marsh gave the order to hold fire the moment their weapons went dark, and I remember feeling a strange kind of relief at that, as if some part of me had been afraid we would become exactly the kind of aggressor we had just defeated. We sent word to the nearest station, reporting the encounter, and within a few hours, a proper patrol vessel arrived to take custody of the disabled ship and its crew. I stood at the viewport and watched them being escorted away under guard, silent, subdued, nothing like the confident voice that had threatened us only hours earlier. I thought that would be the end of it. I was wrong. 3 days later, as we resumed our route toward the outer stations, Grace picked up a distress signal on a frequency we rarely used, one reserved for emergencies far from any friendly territory. The voice on the recording was faint, distorted, but clear enough to understand. It came from a research outpost, a small station studying deep space phenomena near the edge of contested territory, and it was asking for immediate help. Captain Marsh gathered the senior crew in the small briefing room just off the bridge. There were 5 of us there, myself included, along with Owen, Grace, and our medical officer, a calm woman named Ivy Sutherland, who had joined the crew only a year earlier, but had already earned everyone's trust. The station reports an unknown vessel approaching their position, Captain Marsh said, her tone serious. They believe it may be hostile. They do not have the means to defend themselves. Owen leaned forward. Do we know who they are? He asked. The ones approaching the outpost. Not yet, Captain Marsh admitted, but given what happened to us, I think we should assume the worst until we know otherwise. Ivy crossed her arms. That outpost is nearly 2 days from here at standard speed, she said. Can we even make it in time? Captain Marsh looked toward Owen, who thought for a moment before answering. If we push the engines past their normal limits, he said, we might cut that down to a day and a half. It would be risky, but the ship can handle it. Captain Marsh nodded slowly. Then that is what we will do, she said. I will not leave innocent people undefended if there is any way we can help them. I remember feeling a mixture of pride and worry in that moment, proud that our captain would choose to help strangers, even at risk to ourselves, worried about what might be waiting for us when we arrived. We set course immediately, and for the next day and a half, the ship hummed with a tension unlike anything I had felt before. Nobody spoke much during meals. Nobody slept well. Even Grace, usually calm at the controls, kept glancing at the sensors, as if expecting trouble to appear at any moment. When we finally dropped out of warp near the outpost, what we found was worse than any of us had imagined. The station itself was heavily damaged, one entire section dark and venting atmosphere into space, emergency lights blinking weakly along its remaining structure. A single enemy vessel, smaller than the one we had faced before but no less dangerous, hovered near the station, its weapons trained directly on the remaining living quarters. Captain Marsh's voice cut through the tense silence on our bridge. Open a channel to the station, she said. Grace complied instantly. A man's voice answered, breathless, clearly frightened. This is Outpost Commander Nathan Ellery, he said. We have injured personnel and limited power. Please, if you can help us, do it now. Captain Marsh answered him calmly. This is the Callaway's debt. Hold on, we are here. She then turned to the rest of us. Owen, prepare the mirror system for immediate use, she said. Grace, get us between that ship and the station. Ivy, prepare the medical bay for incoming wounded. I stayed at my station, monitoring our own systems, my heart pounding as Grace guided our ship into position, placing our hull directly between the enemy vessel and the damaged outpost. It was a bold move, one that left us exposed, but it was clearly the only way to protect the people trapped inside that station. The enemy ship's weapons ports glowed as they detected our arrival, and within seconds, they fired directly at us, likely assuming we would suffer the same fate as the station had. The mirror system activated instantly, our hull absorbing the strike and preparing to answer it back. But something felt different this time. Owen frowned at his console, tapping quickly at the controls. "Their weapon signature is different," he said. "It is not fully compatible with our system yet. Give me a moment." For the first time since the encounter days earlier, I felt real fear settle into my chest. If the mirror system failed to adapt in time, we would be nothing more than an easy target, standing directly between danger and the people we had come to protect. The enemy fired again, another strike slamming into our hull, and this time, I felt the ship shudder harder than before. Warning lights flared across my console. Somewhere below us, I heard a distant groan of stressed metal. "Almost there," Owen said, his voice tight with concentration. "Just a few more seconds." Grace kept the ship steady despite the damage, refusing to move us out of position, even as another strike came in. I admired her courage in that moment, more than I could put into words. "Got it," Owen finally said. The mirror system locked onto their weapon signature. Captain Marsh did not hesitate. "Fire," she said. Our hull released a return strike far stronger than what we had used against the first enemy ship, likely due to the additional charge built up from the earlier failed attempts. It struck the enemy vessel directly across its main section, and unlike before, this time the damage was immediate and severe. Their ship's lights flickered wildly, before several sections went dark entirely, and their weapons ports fell silent. The enemy commander's voice came through our comm, panicked, desperate. "Cease fire," he shouted. "We surrender. We surrender." Captain Marsh looked at Owen, who confirmed their weapons remained inactive. Then she gave the order to hold our own fire as well. "We do not wish to cause further harm," she said into the comm. "Power down your remaining systems and prepare to be boarded by station security. If you comply, no further action will be taken against you." There was a long pause before the enemy commander answered, his voice quiet now, almost defeated. "Understood," he said. I let out a breath I had not realized I was holding, watching as the enemy vessel powered down its remaining systems, drifting harmlessly beside the damaged station. Grace immediately turned our ship to allow emergency crews from a nearby patrol to begin approaching, and Ivy rushed to prepare for the wounded being transferred from the outpost. I stayed at my station a while longer, watching the scene unfold, still trying to process everything that had happened in such a short amount of time. Once the situation had stabilized, Captain Marsh gathered the senior crew again, this time not in the briefing room, but on the bridge itself, as if she wanted us all to remain close together after everything we had just been through. "You all did exceptional work today," she said, looking around at each of us. "Owen, your quick thinking adapted our system in time to save this station. Grace, your steady hand kept us in position when it mattered most. Ivy, your preparation is already saving lives in the medical bay. Daniel, your calm monitoring kept us aware of every system change throughout the engagement." I felt a warmth in my chest at her words, though I quickly reminded myself that the true credit belonged to all of us together, not to any one person alone. Commander Ellery's voice returned through the comm not long after, filled with gratitude. "I do not know how to thank you," he said. "You saved everyone on this station." Captain Marsh answered him simply. "You do not need to thank us," she said. "Just take care of your people, and we will take care of the rest." Over the following hours, patrol ships arrived to take custody of the second enemy vessel, and medical transports arrived to assist with the wounded from the outpost. I watched from the viewport as the station's damaged sections were slowly stabilized, temporary patches sealing the breaches until proper repairs could begin. It was strange, standing there watching everything unfold, realizing how close we had come to failure only a short time earlier. How different everything could have turned out if Owen had needed even a few more seconds to adapt our system, or if Grace had hesitated even slightly in positioning our ship. Later that evening, once the situation had fully calmed, and our ship had been cleared to depart, I found myself standing beside Captain Marsh at the viewport, watching the outpost grow smaller as we prepared to resume our original course. "Do you ever get used to moments like that?" I asked her, unsure if it was appropriate to ask, but curious nonetheless. She was quiet for a moment before answering. "No," she admitted. "I do not think you are supposed to get used to it. I think you simply learn to trust the people standing beside you, and trust that together, you can face whatever comes." I thought about her words for a long time after that conversation, turning them over in my mind as we continued our journey toward the outer stations. I thought about how easily things could have gone differently, how close both encounters had come to ending in disaster rather than success. But I also thought about something else, something that stayed with me long after those events had passed. I thought about how the true strength we had shown was not simply in our advanced technology or in our ship's ability to answer force with force. It was in the choice we made both times to protect others, to place ourselves between danger and the innocent, and to show mercy once the danger had passed. We were not the same crew who had first heard those alarms days earlier, uncertain and afraid of what waited outside our hull. We had faced real danger twice now, and both times, we had chosen to stand our ground, to protect what mattered, and to prove that being underestimated was not the same as being weak. In the days that followed, word of both encounters spread quickly through nearby stations and trade routes, carried by other crews who had heard the story from those we had helped along the way. I do not think any of us expected the attention it received, nor did we seek it out, but there was something quietly satisfying in knowing that our actions had made a difference, however small it might have seemed at the time. Captain Marsh remained as calm and steady as ever, refusing to let the growing attention change how she led our crew. She often reminded us that we had simply done what needed to be done, nothing more and nothing less, and that any ship, any crew, faced with the same circumstances, should be expected to do the same. I found comfort in her words, though I also carried with me a quiet understanding that not every crew would have responded the way we had, that not every captain would have chosen to risk everything for the sake of strangers they had never met. As our ship continued onward, leaving both the damaged station and the memory of those encounters behind us, I found myself looking forward, wondering what challenges might still lie ahead, but no longer feeling the same fear I had felt when those first alarms had woken me from my sleep. I had learned, in those few short days, that true strength was never about seeking conflict or proving superiority. It was about standing firm when needed, protecting those who could not protect themselves, and choosing mercy whenever the choice was ours to make. And as the stars stretched endlessly before us, I understood that whatever waited for us next, our crew would face it together, just as we always had, and just as I now believed we always would.